Friends, welcome to Dr. B.R.O. Government College, Jadchala. Today, we are going to discuss the nervous tissue and nerve impulse transmission. As this lesson is a bit long, we are carrying this lesson into two parts. So, first, part 1 followed by part 2. So, let us start the part 1 video lesson, nervous tissue and nerve impulse transmission. Let's get started. How our nervous system performs its function, you just see this slide. Okay, here there is a danger to the human being. For this man, here there is a danger in the form of an aggressive animal. An aggressive animal is running behind this person. So what the person will do? The person will immediately run away from the source of the stimulus. How our nervous system coordinates all these things, let us analyze. How many steps are there in this process? Let us also see this. Okay, so before a reflex started or exhibited or expressed in our body, there are several stages in the nervous system that will occur. The first very important process is called detection. The danger stimulus is detected first. And after detecting the stimulus, the same information is sent to the central nervous system, and where in the central nervous system the information is processed and integrated with all other association centers, and then it will give a particular order to the necessary or to the responsible skeletal muscle or to certain parts of our body, and this is called response. So, how many steps are there in this process? Detection, integration, and response. So, how detection occurs? Let us see. When we observe a dangerous thing, that is called a stimulus. So, for this we have to run away. So, this is called a dangerous stimulus. This is a stimulus. The sense organs of our body, especially eyes, immediately catch this information. Or sometimes if we are listening to a very dangerous sound, our ears can catch this information. So sense organs take this information, and you know very well that the sense organs are located in the peripheral nervous system. So sense organs transmit that stimulus information to the central nervous system. This central nervous system is of two types, you may be knowing. One is called the brain and the other one is called spinal cord. Immediately it will go to the central nervous system, where in the central nervous system there are several reception centers. Okay, so these reception centers take the information and give it to the internutial neurons. The internutial neurons, which are situated in the association centers, will analyze the information, what to do, what not to do, like that. Information will be analyzed. After the analysis is completed, a proper decision is taken, and this decision is in the form of action potential orders, is given to the responsible muscle or responsible gland or the internal visceral organ that is responsible to perform this very important action. So let us see. The sense organs in the peripheral nervous system take the stimulus and transmit it to the brain or spinal cord. So in the brain there are several processing units called association centers. So in the association centers there are internutial neurons or interneurons. These interneurons analyze the information and immediately send some motor signals. The motor signals are sent to the central somatic nervous system, and the somatic nervous system, especially the sciatic nerve, the nerve that goes through the legs. So it will be, the order will be given to the somatic nervous system, and the skeletal muscles of the legs start contracting and making a person run away from the source of the stimulus. By the same way, simultaneously, motor division will also give orders to autonomic nervous system, because for running purpose, heartbeat, beat of the heart or heart rate, say certain glands, release of what is that called adrenaline enzyme, adrenaline hormone, the hormone adrenaline, and necessary enzymes what are needed, and the rate of respiration. Okay, so all these organs, internal organs are also coordinated to perform this function. So in this manner, our nervous system performs its function. So nervous system or the nervous tissue is mainly intended for bringing coordination and bringing control of our internal body parts. So this is a very, very important tissue. So let us understand how the information passes from one place to the other place in the nervous system. What are responsible for the transmission of these signals, and what is the nature of the signals? Is it a chemical signal, or is it an electric signal, or sometimes the electric signal and chemical signals are depending on one another? So finally, let us come to a conclusion of how the nervous system performs its function by conducting the information and thereby bringing coordination of many organs in our body. Okay, let's see. The nervous system of all vertebrates and also invertebrates, many invertebrates, streptoblastic animals at least, is divided based on their location, based on their arrangement into three types. The nerve parts that are located, the nervous parts, nervous tissue parts, that means the neurons, neuroglia, nerves, etc. The nervous tissue that is located exactly in our central axis is constituting a system called central nervous system. Central nervous system is exactly located in our central axis. And whatever the nerve parts or nervous tissue that is located in the peripheral regions away from the central nervous system or away from the central axis constitute peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system located outside our central axis. Central nervous system is exactly located in the central axis of our body. And a part of the central nervous system and a part of peripheral nervous system is forming another division that is known as autonomic nervous system or autonomous nervous system. Okay, there are three main parts in our nervous system: the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, and a special division called autonomous nervous system. The central nervous system has two parts. One is called the brain and the other one is called spinal cord. Of course, the brain and spinal cord are not separate parts, so they are connected with one another. And because the brain, that is bulged structure and is situated in the head, that is called brain, and a very, very long cord-like structure that is running exactly in the neural canal of vertebral column is called spinal cord. So brain and spinal cord together constitute the central nervous system. And what parts are there in peripheral nervous system? From the central nervous system, especially from the brain, certain nerves arise, and these nerves innervate different parts of our body, forming the cranial nerves, because they look as if they are coming out of cranium. Actually, they are originated in the brain, but they are seen as they are coming out of cranium. They are called cranial nerves. Okay, and from our spinal cord, some nerves come out. They are called spinal nerves. So from the spine, some nerves are coming out, peripheral nerves. They are called spinal nerves, and from the cranium, some nerves are running out. They are called cranial nerves. Cranial nerves are 12 pairs, but whereas the spinal nerves are 31 pairs. The 31 pairs spinal nerves are further classified into cervical nerves, thoracic nerves, lumbar nerves, sacral nerves, and coccygeal caudal nerves. Okay, the cervical nerves in the case of human being are 8. So first to 8th one are called cervical nerves, and then later 12 nerves which are there in the thoracic area are called thoracic spinal nerves, and 5 lumbar nerves, 5 sacral nerves are there, and 1 pair of coccygeal nerves are there. So cranial nerves and spinal nerves are always arranged in pairs. They are arranged in left and right parts of our body, because our body is bilaterally symmetrical. So central nervous system receives the information from the peripheral nervous system and processes the information and after processing the information, a proper decision is taken, and those decisions are in the form of impulse orders, electric orders or electric impulses are sent back to the peripheral nervous system, and this peripheral nervous system conveys the information of central nervous system to the muscles or to the glands. Okay, so sensory nerves, motor nerves are situated in the peripheral nervous system. Sensory nerves are bringing the information to the central nervous system. Motor nerves are carrying the orders of central nervous system towards the effector organs. So this is a very, very beautiful arrangement between the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Meanwhile, there is another system that is called autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is actually a part of central nervous system. It is regulated. It is not fully autonomic actually. So it is up to some extent is regulated by the central nervous system, and this autonomic nervous system is forming chain of ganglia on either side of the dorsal aorta. Okay, and some part of the cranial nerves mingle with the sacral nerves. They form craniosacral outflow and thoracolumbar outflow. Two divisions are there. Thoracic nerves and lumbar nerves constitute to form a special autonomic division called sympathetic division, otherwise called thoracolumbar outflow, and the cranial nerves and sacral spinal nerves together form a very special autonomic division, and that is called parasympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic division. Friends, you just understand autonomic nervous system will control or regulate the very, very important vital organs. You take for example heart, you take for example respiration rate, for digestion, for excretion. All these phenomena are regulated by autonomous nervous system. And this autonomous nervous system is not under our voluntary control actually. Okay, so some system is under our voluntary control, but autonomic nervous system is not working under our voluntary control, and it is having two divisions as I mentioned. One is called sympathetic division. The sympathetic division will enhance or will excite the function of an organ, and in contrary to that, parasympathetic nervous system, when the work is completed, it will inhibit the same activity. One is acting as an accelerator, the other one is acting as a brake. So often autonomic nervous system is described as accelerator and brake because both are necessary for the effective function of a vehicle. A vehicle has to move very fast, for that accelerator is needed, but to control the speed a brake is also needed. So likewise, sympathetic division of our autonomic nervous system is called an accelerator. It will enhance the function of internal organs, but when the internal organs are to be take rest, the parasympathetic nervous system will send signals to the same organ. So in such a way our nervous system is organized. Central nervous system, which is located in the central region, peripheral nervous system that's located in the peripheral region, and autonomic nervous system. Actually these three are not separate parts of our nervous system, but our nervous system is organized in these different departments. Friends, if you want to understand the function of nervous system, we need to understand its components first. The nervous tissue, it is actually derived from the ectoderm. This ectodermal derivative nervous tissue is having lot of cells. The cells of nervous tissue are mainly categorized into two types. They are the neurons. They are nerve cells. They are otherwise called nerve cells or neurons. These neurons are the structural and functional units of the nervous system or nervous tissue. Okay, when the neurons are functioning their performance or their function, performing their function, some other cells will support the neurons. The supporting cells, together known as neuroglia. Neuroglial cells, neurons are the two components of nervous system or nervous tissue. Let me tell you, the nervous tissue is derived from ectoderm. So it is the tissue derived from ectoderm, and this tissue has two components. One is the cell. The cells are called neurons, and the other one is called matrix. The matrix speciality of nervous system is that the matrix is also made up of cells. Such cells are called neuroglial cells. These two together perform the activities in the nervous tissue. So let us understand first the neurons, second the neuroglia. After having understood the structure of neurons and the types of neuroglia, let us go to the second part of this lesson to understand the function of neurons and how action potentials are actually generated and propagated. Okay, friends, you observe this slide. These are different types of neurons that are there in our body. You just see here there is a bulged part in any neuron. You see any neuron is having a bulged part. The bulged or swollen part of any neuron is called soma. Soma, singular, somata, plural. It is also known as cyton or otherwise called cell body. Or somebody say it has perikaryon also. Perikaryon, soma, cyton, cell body. These are all the synonyms related to the bulged part of neuron. And this is why it is bulged. It is bulged because there is a centrally located nucleus. Okay? And surrounding the nucleus there is cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm there are all cell organelles are present except the centrosomes and centrioles. Okay, so that is why the nervous tissue, once it is formed from its stem cells, it cannot divide further because of the absence of some very important cell division structures. Okay, the bulged part is called cyton, and you just see this side, this neuron. It has two projections. One projection towards this side and the other projection towards that side. Because the neuron is having two projections, it is called a bipolar neuron. A bipolar neuron. So one projection is towards dendrite and one projection is towards axon. Because two sides, polarity is there. Two poles are there, dendritic pole, axon pole. As two poles are there, this is called a bipolar neuron. You will find this bipolar neuron in our retina. In our retina, the bipolar neurons are there. They take the information from cones and rods and give it to the ganglionic cells. Okay. And you observe the second one. This is a very, very strange one. Okay. So I have drawn here a pseudo-unipolar neuron actually. So this is the soma or the cyton. Okay, or the cell body. It is giving only one projection. As only one projection is there, it is called unipolar neuron. Here, you observe the first diagram, two projections are there on two different sides. It is called a bipolar neuron, but here from the soma only one projection has come out. This is called unipolar neuron. This projection further divided into two parts. One is called this axon actually. One axon is called peripheral axon going to the peripheral sense organ, and the other part is going to the central nervous system. It is located on the dorsal root ganglion of our spinal cord. One projection is going towards the sense organ and the other projection is going towards the central nervous system. When you see this under a microscope, you will get a false impression that it is having two projections. Then you can say that it is a bipolar neuron, but it is not a bipolar neuron. Okay? It is a pseudo-unipolar neuron. Okay? Seems to be unipolar and it is also having two projections. It is called pseudo-unipolar neuron. And if a soma is having only one projection, that is called only dendrite, and that is called unipolar neuron. And where is this pseudo-unipolar neuron located? It is located inside the dorsal root ganglion. Okay, it has one is peripheral axon and another projection is called central axon. Okay, next. let us see this neuron. And this neuron is having a soma, a very, very long axon. Of course, axon is divided into telodendrites or telodendrons or terminal dendrites. But you see the soma has got several projections. Okay, several projections in the form of dendrites. Okay, it can receive the information from this side, from this side, from this side, from this side, from many sides. So this is called a multipolar neuron. In a multipolar neuron, information from any dendrite can come and go along the length of the axon and finally reach the telodendrites or terminal dendrites. Friends, there are three types of neurons: unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron, and multipolar neuron. Okay, and there is a neuron which seems like unipolar neuron and also having two projections, and it is known as pseudo unipolar neuron. Structurally, the neurons here are categorized into three types. But how many types of neurons are there on the basis of their function? Functionally, neurons are classified into three types. What are they? Let's see. Okay, you just see this neuron. Earlier we have seen this neuron as the pseudo unipolar neuron. One branch is going to the sense organ and receiving the information, and it is taking the information, and this information is passing to the central nervous system. This is central nervous system. Okay, so what is it doing actually? Functional means what is its function? It is collecting the sensory information and giving that sensory information to the central nervous system. From the peripheral nervous system, it is transmitting information to the central nervous system. As the sensory information is transmitted by this neuron towards the central nervous system, this is called a sensory neuron. A sensory neuron. Okay? Or else, this is also known as afferent neuron. Afferent neuron means it is making something arriving. Afferent, arriving, you say. So, afferent neuron, it is bringing information towards the central nervous system from outside. Okay, that is why it is called an afferent neuron. Sensory neurons are also known as afferent neurons. Friends, this afferent neuron or sensory neuron is giving information to the central nervous system. And what are there in central nervous system? Interneurons are there. Interneurons are also known as internuncial neurons. You see a multipolar neuron here. So many projections are there. Okay. So the internuncial neuron is receiving the information, and it is associated with several other neurons. The same information will be passed to the several other neurons, and as a part of integration, a ganglion, okay, or a nucleus. So collectively take the information and process and take a proper decision. Okay, these are called interneurons. Interneurons don't come out of central nervous system; they remain within the central nervous system only. And then it gives information to a motor neuron. The motor neurons are those neurons whose somata are located in the central nervous system, but axon is located outside the central nervous system in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, soma is located in the central nervous system, but the axon and telodendrites are located in the peripheral nervous system. What is it doing? It is carrying the orders of central nervous system and giving it to the effector organ. As it is carrying away the orders, it is called efferent neuron. Or it is responsible for some movement or some action outside. It is called motor neuron. Motor neurons are also known as efferent neurons. Sensory neurons are also known as afferent neurons. And interneurons are those neurons which are completely located within the central nervous system and associating with so many other neurons for the purpose of memory, or for the purpose of accessing, for the purpose of managing, for the purpose of storing, and for the purpose of processing anything. So these are in the cerebrum or in the other parts of the brain. Friends, functionally, neurons are classified into three types. Sensory neuron, that is bringing sensory information into the central nervous system. Its soma is located in the peripheral nervous system. okay, but its terminal dendrites are located in the central nervous system. Interneurons are totally confined, absolutely confined only to the central nervous system, and motor neuron, whose soma is located in the central nervous system, but axon is located in the peripheral nervous system, and it brings orders to the muscles or to the glands. Functionally, these are three types. Okay, so we have known something about the neurons, their types, based on their structure and based on their function. But what are the supporting cells of the neuron? That is very, very important, and these supporting cells form a portion called neuroglia. It is called nervous tissue matrix. Okay, the supporting cells of nervous tissue are broadly categorized based on their function, based on their origin, into 4 different types. They are called oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, ependymal cells, and microglial cells. Okay, these are supporting the neurons. The supporting function may be varying from supporting cell to cell. Okay, let us see first oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocyte, they form myelin sheath around the axons within the central nervous system. The axons, what are there in the central nervous system, around the axons, the myelin sheath is secreted by oligodendroblasts. Oligodendroblast is a functioning cell. Oligodendrocyte is a resting cell. Okay, oligodendroblasts form a fatty layer around the axon of a neuron that is located in the central nervous system. Okay, and then its a counterpart, oligodendrocyte counterpart, is called a Schwann cell. You see the Schwann cell, friends? Notice the difference between oligodendrocyte and a Schwann cell. Schwann cell will do the similar function. That means it secretes a fatty layer of myelin around the axon of the neuron which is located in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, what's the difference between oligodendroblast and Schwann cell? Oligodendroblast secretes myelin around the axon at regular intervals of central nervous system, axon of central nervous system, and Schwann cell surrounds the forms the what is that called a myelin sheath in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, the cells that are covering axon are called oligodendrocytes or Schwann cells. Depending on their location, they are known with different names. Central nervous system, oligodendrocytes; peripheral, Schwann cells. These two surround or cover axons. But there is a cell that is surrounding, what is that called? Soma. Okay, a cell that is surrounding soma, it's not forming any layer, any myelin sheath like that. Layer is not formed, but it is protecting or supporting or holding the soma in its proper position in the nervous system. And that supporting cell of cell body or soma or cyton is called a satellite cell. Satellite cells, oligodendroblasts, or Schwann cells. These are catch holding the neuron in their position. Of course, the myelin sheath is having additional use of conducting the information very, very fast through the nodes of Ranvier, that is called saltating conduction. Okay, this is about oligodendroblast. And the second type is called astrocyte. Astrocytes are those cells which are located in between the neurons, among the neurons in the neuroglia, and they have several processes, extensions of their cytoplasm. And these are attached with one another, forming a network-like structure. And with these processes, at one side, they attach to the blood capillaries. On the other side, they attach to the brain cells. Okay, so between the brain and the blood, a layer of astrocytes is always formed. A layer of astrocytes is formed between the blood and brain. Hence, it is often described as blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier is formed by astrocytes. These are star-shaped. These are having several projections, as I mentioned. With one projection, it attaches to the brain cell, and other projection it attaches to the blood capillaries. Why? This is because in the blood there may be lot of toxic substances, there may be lot of infectious agents. So to prevent all that material entering into the brain, so what is needed? A barrier wall is needed. That barrier wall is formed by astrocytes, blood-brain barrier. Next, ependymal cells. Ependymal cells are nothing but columnar ciliated cells. They are columnar ciliated cells, they are having cilia, and these cells are located as the lining of brain ventricles and the central canal of spinal cord. Okay, so these cells, as they beat their cilia in a coordinated fashion, the cerebrospinal fluid getting its movement. The movement of cerebrospinal fluid through the ventricles and through the central canal of spinal cord is maintained, the flow is maintained by these cells. Such cells are called ependymal cells. They line the ventricles and central canal of the spinal cord, and they drive cerebrospinal fluid. That's very, very important, because cerebrospinal fluid will support and will nourish the entire nervous tissue. Okay, blood doesn't go directly into brain. Brain doesn't receive blood directly. If blood enters into brain, that's called hemorrhage, cerebral hemorrhage. All nerve cells in that particular area will die because of bleeding. So between the blood and brain there is a barrier, astrocyte form barrier, and cerebrospinal fluid is always moving with the help of another supporting cells called ependymal cells. So far we have seen oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, ependymal cells. And the fourth variety of neuroglial cells are very, very interesting, because these are the only cells that are not derived from ectoderm. They are derived from mesoderm. Okay, mesoderm. They are called mononuclear phagocytes of blood actually. They are the mononuclear phagocytes, and these phagocytes, so under normal conditions, when they are there in brain, they start taking rest. They remain inactive. They remain under dormancy. But when infection occurs in the brain, whenever there is an infection in the brain, these microglial cells activate and kill the infectious agents by phagocytosis. So, microglial cells are the only cells in the entire nervous tissue which are derived from mesoderm. All other supporting cells, including neurons, are derived from ectoderm, and this is called neuroglia. So, nervous tissue means neurons, neuroglia. Neuroglia means oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, ependymal cells, and external cells called microglial cells. Okay, friends, to understand today's lesson, we need to understand the complete structure of a neuron. Okay, so neuron is a very, very important part of our nervous system. It is the fundamental unit, and we have 100 billions of neurons in our nervous system. In our nervous system, 100 billions of neurons are there, and neurons do not have regeneration capacity. And out of 100 billion neurons, 86 billions of neurons are there in our brain only. And the remaining 14 billion cells are scattered in our body in the form of peripheral neurons. Okay, whatever our body takes every day, 25% of energy goes to brain only. So that's why brain is consuming a lot of energy. Okay, if you are taking 100 calories a day in a meal, out of 125 calories will be taken by the brain. Continuously the brain cells, 100 billion cells, continuously start their function. They are undergoing function. They are performing their function in the form of electric impulses. Okay, and as a result of these internuncial neurons, what we have earlier described, we will get a lot of thoughts. Okay, so as many as 30,000 ideas we get every day, but we take only few of them which are useful to us. So brain is the structure that is continuously using the energy, continuously using. So 25% of the energy that your body is getting from food will be given to the brain only. Okay, right. Now, this is the neuron, and a neuron is having very simple three parts. What are the three parts? One is called soma. The second one, many several projections are there. These are called dendrites, and a very long tail-like structure is there, and that is called axon. Dendrites, soma, axons are the three parts. What are there in the soma? Soma, cyton, cell body, perikaryon is consisting of a nucleus and cytoplasm. Cytoplasm has endoplasmic reticulum, and it has Golgi bodies, and it has several other mitochondria. Okay, ribosomes are there, lipofuscin granules are there, and what is that called? Nissls bodies are also there, and they are necessary for the metabolism of a nerve cell. Nerve cell performs a kind of metabolism for the transmission of what is that called nerve impulse. For that, all the necessary cytoplasmic organelles are present. Mitochondria, Nissls granules, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, several other structures are there. Okay, so from the soma, from the cyton or from the soma, several projections are there, and these projections, very fine thread-like, hair-like projections, branched projections. Okay, here branches are there. These branched projections are called dendrites. Dendrites are the areas, or they are the places of a neuron where information is received from various resources. Okay, this dendrite, this neuron is having a synapse with another neuron with the help of a dendrite. So the dendrite receives the information. So dendrites are called area of reception of information into the neuron. Okay, this information will be transmitted through a very long tail-like structure. This very long tail-like structure is called axon. But friends, you just observe here, there is a small bulge is there where from the axon arises. A small bulge where from axon arises is called axon hillock. It is called axon hillock. This axon hillock is having a greater significance because here the generation of nerve impulse takes place. Okay, generation of nerve impulse takes place. Here, triggers, it is the trigger zone. This is called trigger zone. Okay, now along the length of the axon, the information passes, and the axon is having a kind of special fluid called axoplasm, and axoplasm contents are very specific for the conduction of impulse, and this axon is having a layer called axolemma, and axolemma is having several channels for the entry and for the exit of ions, and axolemma is periodically at regular intervals is surrounded by myelin sheath in some neurons. Where myelin sheath is present, in which neurons, those neurons are called myelinated neurons, and those neurons which don't have any myelin sheath around their axon at regular intervals are called non-myelinated neurons or non-medullated neurons. Medullated, non-medullated. Myelinated, non-myelinated. Myelin is a fatty substance. It is having bright white, silvery white color. So when we see from outside, all the myelinated axons appear as white matter. And you see the soma part is not having any myelin cover. So this looks in grayish in appearance, as this all the somata located area grayish in appearance. Axon located area, myelinated axon located areas are called are appearing whitish in color. So that is called white matter, and soma parts are called gray matter. The gray matter and the white matter means it is nothing but having different parts of neurons. In brain, gray matter is centrally located, okay, Gray matter is peripherally located in the brain, and whereas in the spinal cord, gray matter is centrally located around the central canal. So in spinal cord, gray matter is inside, white matter is outside, peripheral. And in the brain, okay, white matter is in the central side, central location, and gray matter is located in the peripheral region. That is the difference between the brain and spinal cord. Okay, now you see the axon. Axon is moving and innervating a muscle here. A muscle. It is innervating a muscle. It is making a contact with a muscle. At the point of contact, there is a very, very special system. And that special system is called a synapse actually. That synapse between the junction, functional junction, the synapse between a nervous system and a muscle is called a neuromuscular junction. It is called a neuromuscular junction. Okay, and you see the myelin sheath. This is the central axon, and around the axon, wrapping of fatty coat is there, and this is called a myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is whitish in color, that's why it forms white matter. Okay, this is a neuron. Now, all neurons in the peripheral region or in the peripheral nervous system, the neurons constitute, especially axons, constitute a structure. That structure is called a nerve. You will see the nerve when body is dissected, vertebrate body is dissected, you will see a fine white thread-like structures. They are called nerves. Okay, what type of nerves are there? Nerves are three types. Some nerves are taking the information from a sense organ and giving it to central nervous system. They are sensory nerves. Okay, and some nerves are originating from the brain and bringing the motor signals to effector organs, and they are called motor nerves. Sensory nerves, motor nerves. You will find the sensory nerves and motor nerves in certain cranial nerves. Okay, olfactory, optic, auditory or sensory nerves. Okay, so oculomotor, abducens, trochlear, these are motor nerves. And in some cases, a nerve is accommodating sensory fibers as well as motor fibers. In one nerve, several nerve fibers are there actually. Nerve fiber means axons. Nerves are having several nerve fibers. Nerve fibers are nothing but axons. In some nerves, sensory nerve fibers are there, motor nerve fibers are there. Such a nerve is conducting the information in two ways. So the two ways, single nerve fiber does not transmit the information in two ways. Okay, any nerve fiber transmits the information in one way only, from soma to the telodendrite. But here what is the case? Some neurons are sensory, some neurons are motor. Both the neurons are tied up within a nerve. Such nerves are called mixed nerves. You will have that all spinal nerves are mixed nerves, and in addition to that some cranial nerves like trigeminal nerve, facial nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve, and then vagus nerve, the longest nerve, vagus nerve is also a mixed nerve. So, based on the conduction phenomenon, nerves are three types: sensory nerves that are taking sensory information to brain, motor nerves that are bringing motor orders from brain to the effectors, and mixed nerves. Mixed nerves are having two fibers, both sensory fibers and motor fibers. So, that is about mixed nerves. And based on that, let us see the structure of a nerve. A nerve is having nerve fibers, that means axons. A nerve is having several axons. What tissue is there among the nerve fibers? Okay, that is the structure of a nerve. Okay, let me tell you, the entire nerve is surrounded by a connective tissue sheath called epineurium. Epineurium. So let us cut a nerve. You will find several bundles of nerve fibers called fascicles. Fascicles. So each fascicle is consisting of several nerve fibers. Each fascicle is surrounded by a connective tissue called perineurium. Perineurium. And if you open the perineurium, you will find the nerve fiber. Each nerve fiber is surrounded by endoneurium. Okay, there are three connective tissue layers coming from outside to inside: epineurium, perineurium, endoneurium. This is the structure of a nerve. Such nerves are moving from cranium to different parts called cranial nerves, from the spine to the different parts called spinal nerves. Okay, friends, so this is the first part of nervous tissue and functioning of nervous system or production and propagation of nerve impulse. Let us continue the discussion on the production and propagation of nerve impulse in the next video. Thank you for watching.